Well, quite simply, as we begin our 11 o'clock edition of Eyewitness News, the unthinkable happened today. The World Trade Center, both towers, gone, and we are all witnesses to it, and to some degree we are all victims. Tonight, there are survivors trapped in that rubble. Mayor Giuliani confirmed it less than an hour ago. How many, we do not know. Our reporters, as you've seen, have been on the streets all day. We begin with Jim Dolan. He is in the newsroom with the latest for us. Jim?
Bill, it was devastating as it unfolded, but only now, hours later, under the harsh lights of rescue vehicles, is the true, horrifying breadth of the terror becoming clear. Before it is over, the casualty figures will be numbing, and few in the city will be untouched by what happened today. So often in the past, we've been able to say, it could have been worse. Tonight, this time, it's hard to imagine how. At Ground Zero, where terror ruled the morning, rescue workers control the night. They are working now. They will work into the day and beyond, searching for victims and combing through the debris, looking for answers. There are precious few of those tonight.
We just had a long meeting with all of the agencies to make sure they have the support that they need. They'll all reassemble here.
Today, our fellow citizens, our way of life, our very freedom came under attack in a series of deliberate and deadly terrorist acts.
Under attack, the first hijacked airliner slammed into the first tower of the World Trade Center shortly before 9. And then, moments later, a second 767, as the world looked on in horror on live television, slammed into the nation's premier symbol of American capitalism and economic might. But this day was far from over. In time, the Pentagon, the premier symbol of American military might, would be attacked as well. And the Twin Towers would then collapse, first one and then the other, a brutal orgy of terror and grief that the president tonight vowed to avenge.
The search is underway for those who are behind these evil acts. I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice.
The mayor's office, too, went into high gear with a massive rescue and cleanup effort. It will result in the end in a lockdown of Manhattan below 14th Street throughout the day tomorrow. Unable to answer the mountain of questions that confront investigators now, the president dispatched the military, sending ships from the United States Naval Base in Norfolk to patrol the air and sea around New York and Washington. And then he asked the nation for prayers, for the victims and for their families and for America.
America has stood down enemies before, and we will do so this time. None of us will ever forget this day. Yet we go forward to defend freedom and all that is good and just in our world. Thank you. Good night, and God bless America.
Police Commissioner Bernard Carrick confirmed moments ago that there are at least 2 people who are trapped inside the rubble but who are alive and able to talk with rescuers. We have been told that at least one of those people is communicating via cell phone. Efforts, of course, underway to free them, now top priority. And the commissioner spoke about the George Washington Bridge, not confirming the reports that were made on some outlets that there was a truck full of explosives that was captured near the George Washington Bridge. The police commissioner would not confirm that. Diana, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Jim. As we've been saying, rescue crews are out there. They're working with portable lights. They're trying to and have already put out the fire in the rubble of what was the Twin Trade Towers. And they are certainly hoping that they will find those 2 survivors that we have heard about and perhaps others. Let's go back to Jeff Ross, and he's live in Lower Manhattan with late details for us. Jeff?
It is eerie down here. You look around, the lights are out in Lower Manhattan. The traffic lights are out, the building lights are out, and certainly the only lights you can see around here are emergency vehicles. As you look down Church Street, you can see exactly what we're talking about. There are literally thousands of emergency crews here. We've seen some from Long Island. We've seen some from New Jersey, some from Connecticut, we understand, looking for any, at this point, signs of life. This was the World Trade Center. The work is far from over. A battle they have already lost.
Too many good friends we lost. Too many. So many. It's unbelievable.
Early estimates are grim. Hundreds of firefighters killed. And even with that and the obvious emotion, they stay and struggle to find some sense of peace. They know that is impossible now.
You know, you feel useless. You're down there and you really can't see much. You don't know what's going on.
And there are people trapped, laying under the rubble. A triage center set up here to treat the injured closed early because so many people never even made it out.
The amount of people coming out is so small, there was no reason to keep the triage open, so we're just ushering them off to hospitals now.
Get out of here! And we will never forget this, the explosions, collapse, and black cloud of smoke and dust.
Oh my God, this is so terrible.
The men and women who made it out know they are the lucky ones.
It just went ba-boom, it was like a bomb went off. And it was like holy hell coming down them stairs.
And what's so frightening tonight is that the mayor and Bernard Kerik, New York City Police Commissioner, now say there are people underneath that rubble, literally trapped alive. The priority now is getting to them, and they will spend all night doing it, pouring as many lights as they can onto the scene, trying to rescue the survivors. And it's unclear now how many of them there are. Let's continue our live team coverage now with NJ Burkett, also on the scene all day in Lower Manhattan. NJ.
And Jeff, as you know, the Twin Towers and everything that was inside them is now strewn across Lower Manhattan. Office workers, the bodies of office workers, the rescue workers who tried to save them are now buried beneath tons of broken glass and twisted steel. The scope of this disaster is impossible to comprehend. What was once the World Trade Center is in ruins. The remains of what was once one of the tallest buildings in the world now cover at least a dozen square blocks. Firefighters continued to pour water on the debris, much of it still smoldering 12 hours after the attack. Several search and rescue teams desperate to get inside have had to wait much of the night, and the agony was obvious.
Not knowing whether or not a lot of the rescuers that went in initially made it out, I guess. People I've worked with, people I know.
1 block from the base of the World Trade Center, and the devastation is total. Everything is either burned up or blown out. The streets are an obstacle course of twisted metal, glass, and someone's shoe. Minutes after the attack, it was pandemonium in Lower Manhattan.
Grab your guy and get him out.
As the fires raged on the upper floors, glass, twisted metal, and airplane parts hurtled to the ground below. We watched helplessly as office workers, desperate to escape the choking smoke, hung from their windows on the 90th floor. At the time, no one expected the towers to collapse. This is as close as we can get to the base of the World Trade Center. You can see the firemen assembled here, the police officers, FBI agents, and you can see the 2 towers. A huge explosion now raining debris on all of us. We better get out of the way! Everyone ran for their lives into the lobby of an office building across the street. Firefighter Louis Caccioli of Engine 47 barely made it out alive.
As we came downstairs, we were just dragging people along with us. And then when we came outside, it just blew, the tower blew, and I found a mask on the floor as I was crawling. And I was lucky to make it out here.
I heard a plane, low, and I looked out the window.
Kathleen Ovino works in an office trailer just down the street.
And then I saw flames. I saw flames engulf the whole upper portion, and then I saw the smoke, and then we saw the people jumping. We saw what we thought was debris, and we realized it was people jumping.
Go! Go! Nearby hotels were evacuated as it became clear that the North Tower would collapse. And within minutes, there was another huge blast. Oh my God, there it goes! This time, we ran for a nearby parking garage to escape the approaching cloud of dust and debris. Seconds later, the World Trade Center was gone.
It's a war. We've been attacked. It's like World War II.
Moyiwa Anibogi and Daphne Carlisle worked on the 82nd floor.
We saw a shadow. It looked like a plane. Next thing we know, it was boom, boom, and the floor started shaking. And then we saw debris fall down, and next thing we know, we had to get out of the building. We stuck on the stairs for a while. We finally got down to the lobby. Then we get to the lobby, it was this big explosion.
I thought we'd be able to outrun it, but we couldn't. It was pitch black.
Like many office workers, they survived the initial explosion, but were nearly killed by the collapse. The ambulances continue to race up and down the West Side Highway tonight. Our best indication so far that this does indeed continue to be a rescue effort, a race against time. Stacey Sager is here now for more on that part of the story. Stace?
Well, thanks, NJ. We have definitely seen that race. We have seen the confusion, and you can definitely call this a grim waiting period here in Lower Manhattan. Still hundreds of civilians and hundreds of emergency workers that remain unaccounted for at this point. But we also found hundreds of volunteers who raced down here to help those people. But the anger over this day has set in. The NYPD presence lit up most of the streets in Lower Manhattan tonight, but closer to where the World Trade Center once stood, there is complete darkness as Tribeca residents sit outside wondering what will happen next. Military personnel roam the streets nearby, and so do officers with bomb-sniffing dogs.
I definitely have friends who have been lost, and it's very sad. And I don't know what's going to happen.
Some residents were politely told where they could not go, but the moments grew more and more tense. And we caught this troubling encounter. What happened to one man on a bicycle after he would not obey the NYPD. Their frustration turning violent. And here along Greenwich Street, we see some of the night's wounded attended to at a triage center composed of hundreds and hundreds of volunteers from all over the tri-state area, ready to provide counseling and emergency medical attention.
I do know that there are firemen and police officers that have lost some of their friends that are going to require some counseling. That's why I'm here.
We're assuming, we've been told at some point somebody will do some rescue, and when the rescue occurs, then we will be prepared to take care of the victims they bring out.
And we did only see several of the wounded at that triage site this evening. Many, many more people just on standby. But as you heard earlier, there are at least 2 police officers, we were told earlier, at least by the police commissioner, 2 police officers trapped alive in the rubble at that site. And you can rest assured that every effort is being made to find those people. On a logistical note, you heard the police commissioner earlier saying 14th Street from the East River to the Hudson River, all of Lower Manhattan in a lockdown as far as vehicles being allowed in. So your best bet is to stay put tomorrow if you don't have to be down here in Lower Manhattan. For now, we're live on West Street in Lower Manhattan. I'm Stacey Sager, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Stacey, thank you. This tragedy began to unfold just before 9 this morning when the first plane, a Boeing 767, a hijacked plane flying from Boston to Los Angeles, when that plane hit the World Trade Center, the Northern Tower. From there, the events spiraled out of control. David Usher is in the newsroom with a timeline of how exactly it all happened today. David?
Bill, well planned and well executed. Those are the descriptions from law enforcement officials about the events that played out today. It seemed as if the terrorists had a script to follow and wanted to make sure the world was watching. The first blow to the world superpower came just before 9 this morning, striking at the towering symbol of America's dominance on the world stage. The FBI says an American Airlines jet, Flight 11, out of Boston and headed to Los Angeles, slammed into the North Tower. Flames and smoke billowed from the skyscraper, but the emergency response was swift and evacuations were started to get many people out to safety. Within minutes, the area is flooded with cops and firefighters and EMTs trying to help civilians. And Newscopter 7 and other media outlets are perched as witnesses. This may have been what the attackers were waiting for, because at 9:04, just minutes after the first strike, watch closely at the right of your screen as a second jetliner heads for what even to the untrained eye looks like a surgical strike into the South Tower. Against a backdrop of gentle blue skies, a terrorist arrow pierces the heart of a city and a nation. There were several angles to witness the tragedy, one more horrifying than the next. The FBI says this was a United Airlines flight 175 out of Boston, also headed to Los Angeles. At this point, the 3 major airports in New York City are already shut down. Trading on the financial markets was suspended, and several of the city's high-profile buildings evacuated. Then, the escalating fear of terrorism spreads to Washington, where at 9:40, another jetliner, this an American Airlines Flight 77, crashed into the mighty fortress of American defense, the Pentagon. Back in Lower Manhattan, there is mayhem after the second plane attack. Then, at 10:09, the unspeakable happens, and those at a distance are paralyzed by what they see. The South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. A panic surges through the streets as thousands of people, including many of our reporters, start trying to outrun the storm of concrete and steel. Then at 10:30, the North Tower comes crashing down. The buildings in which 50,000 people work and thousands other visit were reduced to rubble. Just a few minutes later, in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, word of a plane down, a United Airlines flight that originated in Newark. Based on communications, officials believed it too was hijacked. Meanwhile, new trouble in Lower Manhattan. Number 7 World Trade Center, on fire since early afternoon, collapses shortly after 5 o'clock this evening. The sights, sounds, and smells of dust and debris becoming all too familiar. And as frightening as the video of the attacks are, the images of the aftermath that have started to emerge are chilling. We wanted to show you some amateur video taken at Ground Zero. The voice is that of the photographer Joseph Ramos.
I'm in Ground Zero. I managed to get in. I have the most amazing pictures to take. You've never seen anything like this in your life. There are cars burning all over the place. This is two World Trade Centers on the ground. I'm level right here, ground level. I'm gonna try to take some still photos. Trees were rooted, knocked down. It was unbelievable.
Dude, this is worse than Pearl Harbor.
Fire trucks, windows blown out, buried in debris. Car just blew up. God bless America. I've never seen anything like this, my dear Jesus. This is the World Trade Center on the floor. Words cannot express what I feel, what has been done to this country. Nobody will ever know.
The sights and sounds of terror and its immediate aftermath. There are more haunting images of recovery to come. Back to you in the studio.
Those were some powerful pictures. Thank you, David. Emergency help, of course, is pouring in from around the metro area to help with the casualties, to help with those injured. A command post has been set up at Liberty State Park, and that is where Tim Fleischer is standing by with the latest for us. Tim.
And Diana, tonight they were still bringing the injured over to this triage center that I can show to you just over my shoulder. It's the well lit up section behind me there at Liberty State Park. This apparently has been one of the easiest and certainly one of the more effective ways of treating the many injured by the blast. Even as darkness envelops the Jersey City piers, a stream of ambulances continue to arrive to meet the injured. Here they have set up a triage center in Liberty State Park, the injured ferried across the Hudson. Emergency officials have not released figures on the number of those treated, but activity has been steady all day. This special staging area for the ambulances was set up here in Liberty State Park. You can see here there are dozens of them waiting with their engines running, waiting to be called to pick up another patient. This is all part of a massive emergency effort down here in Liberty State Park in New Jersey. For now, they anxiously wait, huddled in small groups, talking about the extent of this disaster. Also, every 10 minutes, another boat arrives with people who were not injured but are forced to evacuate Lower Manhattan. Some are spending the night in this high school in Jersey City where shelter and food are being provided.
I heard the first crash of the airplane, and then we were told to evacuate the building, and as I was getting dressed to do that, I heard the first World Trade Center coming down, and it sounded like it was coming on top of our building, so I just ran out the door and down the stairwell 7 floors.
Even visitors who were evacuated from the Marriott at the base of the Trade Center are here, some still trying to comprehend the destruction and the loss of lives.
I'm scared. I'm angry. Every time I see what happened, I can't believe that I was lucky enough to survive. I think of all the people that, especially the emergency people that were there trying to help, that we've heard are missing and killed, and it's not right.
And these children from the Battery Park City Day Nursery in Lower Manhattan are also spending the night here. The school's director has not been able to contact the parents of 4 of them.
On some level, they're worried, but overall, they're very good. They're holding together, and they have some questions, but that will come out in time.
And just a short while ago, we got an update on some of the figures of those treated here. According to a spokesperson for the New Jersey Hospital Association, some 2,000 people have been treated here. They did not know, however, just how many of those were life-threatening injuries. Nevertheless, the hospitals here in New Jersey remain on high alert tonight. Reporting live from Jersey City, Tim Fleischer, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Tim, and as you said, hospitals across the tri-state are treating the injured, hundreds of them. As you said, St. Vincent's Hospital in Greenwich Village received the first patients, and that's where most of the fatalities have been reported, at least so far. Lauren Glassberg is there with an update for us tonight. Lauren?
And Bill, it is much quieter here at St. Vincent's Hospital than it was earlier today. Take a look at the scene right in front of the hospital. Instead of seeing hundreds of doctors and nurses, we're just seeing a couple dozen. The number of stretchers has dwindled, the number of chairs, wheelchairs that were to remove the patients from the ambulances dwindled in numbers, and that is not necessarily a good thing. In the last 3 to 4 hours, only about a dozen patients have been transported here to the hospital. It is not good news because according to hospital officials, what it means is that there aren't as many survivors, they believe, as they would have hoped for. The numbers right now, 327 people are being treated or have been treated here throughout the day at St. Vincent's Hospital. 62 are in critical condition. 57 of the patients are emergency workers, firefighters, police officers, and there have been 3 people who died from their injuries while being treated here at St. Vincent's Hospital. Recently, a shift change allowing those who work through the day a chance to rest. The new people who have come on, they are waiting and they are hopeful that survivors will be brought to them for them to treat. One after the next, ambulances raced over St. Vincent's Hospital, a level 1 trauma center, the closest to the World Trade Center, was called on to do what it does best, treat the critically injured. And there were dozens, cuts, bruises, broken bones, and when the towers collapsed, victims of smoke inhalation, some firefighters, police officers, emergency workers among them. Within hours, people had lined up by the hundreds to give blood. Supplies were unloaded by the truckload, and city leaders stopped in to lend support.
It was a source of great comfort when I was rushing past here at about 9 o'clock this morning to head down to the Trade Center after the first airplane had hit and before the second, that there were doctors and nurses already out on the street ready to receive what we knew would be wounded and injured people.
And as darkness fell, doctors and nurses could only wait, hoping to help.
I came down here eager to help out as a surgeon, and there's a tremendous amount of doctors and staff there ready and willing to help and very eager to do so, and there's very little patients coming in.
And the waiting tonight continues. A couple of numbers to pass along to you. If you think you have a family member who is transported to St. Vincent's Hospital, the number to call, 212-604-7285, 604-7285. You can also go to the Family Center, which has been set up at the new school at 66 West 12th Street. 2 other numbers to pass along. If you're a doctor and you would like to volunteer, they're fully staffed right now at St. Vincent's, but you can call for tomorrow. They may need doctors. 212-604-3850, 604-3850. And for nurses, that number is 604-8474, 604-8474. In terms of blood donations, so far St. Vincent says they have enough. They had hundreds of volunteers come out, but a good idea is to check with your local hospital tomorrow to see if they are in the need of blood, and the same goes for any volunteers. This is certainly not the only hospital that has been treating people who are injured. We go now live to Marcus Solis. He is live at Bellevue Hospital. Marcus.
And Lauren, a similar situation here as activity almost dropped off during the night. This stretch of First Avenue is closed except for emergency personnel. Every once in a while you will see some ambulances tearing up First Avenue, some police personnel, some headed to the hospital, but some headed to where you see lit up in the background. That is the morgue, and there are 2 large refrigerated trucks that brought the first wave of some of the bodies that were recovered at the scene downtown. The morgue lit up by temporary lighting, and certainly a very active spot tonight. At Bellevue, 159 people treated so far. 2 people have died from their injuries, and outside the hospital, plenty of people coming today looking for answers.
Come back around here, all right? You're going to have a list waiting for you, all right?
They've been arriving all night long, people searching for loved ones who they've yet to hear from. Evelyn Lopez came to Bellevue Hospital hoping for some news about her brother, who works near the top of the World Trade Center.
He was on a very high floor. He was on the 96th floor. And yes, he did call us and tell us he was on the 78th floor helping people out, but after that the building collapsed, so we don't know. We don't know if he made it out.
We're going all over the place, and they have lists, but they're updating them, but we haven't found what we're looking for.
With smoke from the downtown blast still filling the sky, First Avenue was busy with activity. A large trailer escorted by police bringing the first group of bodies to the morgue on 30th Street. Earlier in the day, some of the more fortunate victims, the walking wounded, were released.
Building collapse, I got a lot of smoke.
You breathe in a lot of smoke?
A lot of smoke. They check out. It takes time, you know, but thank God, second time in my life I survive.
As doctors, nurses, even medical students mobilized to staff the emergency room, 159 people were brought to Bellevue, including 16 children. 20 injuries were described as serious. One firefighter was pronounced dead on arrival. Another victim later died.
We're seeing some critically injured patients with a lot of blunt trauma, a lot of cuts, bruises, lacerations, broken bones, and then patients that are just exposed to the smoke and the dust.
Responding to the plea for blood donors, hundreds of New Yorkers came out in force, lining up nearly around the block.
I've never given blood. I hope I won't pass out, but figure we could all band together.
I was down there, and I actually walked back up from the World Trade Center, and we passed by here, and it seemed like the right thing to do.
And certainly so many people turned out, in fact, that at one point Bellevue started turning away people. They processed as many as they could for the next 12 hours. However, they say that does not eliminate the need, and there will certainly be a need tomorrow and in the days ahead. So you can check with the blood centers on the east side, the American Red Cross on the west side, where there are still blood donations being accepted. Now, as for information from Bellevue Hospital, if you think you may have a loved one who has been taken to Bellevue Hospital, there certainly is a phone number that has been set up for you to call. The number 212-562-7696. Again, about 160 people treated here. 2 people died, 20 serious injuries, and among the dead, 1 firefighter confirmed here at Bellevue Hospital. That's the latest from Bellevue. Marcus Solis, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Okay, thank you, Marcus. We're going to give out a few more numbers here for you. New York City has set up a hotline to answer questions. That is so you will not call the 911 emergency number. The hotline number for you to call is 212-560-2730. The number's on your screen right now, and I'm going to repeat it. It is 212-560-2730. Marcus also referenced the need for blood. If you can donate, you should call the New York Blood Center. That number, also on your screen, is 1-800-933-BLOOD, 1-800-933-BLOOD. And of course, for any other information on where you can find help or to even get these numbers again, you can log on to our website at 7online.com. And if you have a friend or a neighbor who does not have cable, please let them know that they can watch WABC TV's coverage of the terrorist attack on the following stations. We have them listed for you here. WNYE Channel 25, NJN New Jersey Network, WHSE Channel 68. And we do want to thank those stations for bringing our coverage to you.
City officials have been monitoring events from a secret and undisclosed location. Of course, the command post for the city was in the 23rd floor of Tower Number 2, the southern tower of the World Trade Center. That now destroyed. Mayor Giuliani has been monitoring the situation along with Police Commissioner Bernard Carrick, Fire Commissioner Thomas Von Essen, at an undisclosed location. We don't know where it is. Cheryl Fiandaca does. She is there. We're awaiting, I understand, Cheryl, another news conference by the mayor. Is that correct?
That's right, Bill. The mayor will be here momentarily to speak again on what the city has planned for this evening and tomorrow. He has already declared a state of emergency. As of midnight tonight, there will be no traffic allowed other than emergency personnel and residents south of 14th Street. That's river to river. All bridges and tunnels will be closed to incoming traffic. And while they say there has been no lawlessness and no looting, there are thousands of police officers and emergency personnel out patrolling the streets. Tonight, the city is quiet. The aftermath of the terrorist attacks on the World Trade Center, now a part of history, as the city remains on a heightened state of alert with the full mobilization of the New York City Police Department, state police, federal agents, military personnel, and the National Guard, all working to safeguard New York from further terrorist attacks.
There are thousands and thousands of emergency workers down there. We've gotten a tremendous amount of help and assistance. In fact, we actually probably have more equipment than we need at this point.
And while the police patrol the street, military planes are flying over New York's airspace, which is shut down as Navy ships make their way to the city's harbors.
We're pretty much out in full force this evening. Southern Manhattan, as you know, we're primarily concentrating on the rescue efforts. The rest of the city is basically, some of the entry points are shut down.
Meantime, all city emergency personnel are on duty, working 12-hour shifts. All specialized units, including the Harbor Patrol, Aviation, K-9, Search and Rescue, SWAT teams, along with the FBI's Joint Terrorist Task Force, are at the ready. The mayor says the city has not received any real specific threats to its security, and so far says no one and no group has taken responsibility for the brutal and obviously well-planned terrorist attacks.
Everything is being done to try to make the city as secure as possible. The president, the FBI, federal government, the state, the governor, the New York City Police Department, law enforcement authorities, everything is being done that can be done.
Well, the police commissioner says the department is getting hundreds of tips and the Joint Terrorist Task Force is following up on all of them, but so far they say no one and no group has claimed responsibility for today's attacks. We're live at an undisclosed location for security reasons. I'm Cheryl Fiandaca, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Cheryl, very quickly, we of course are awaiting word from the commissioner about this incident or this unconfirmed report about explosives at the GW Bridge. What do you know about that at this point?
So far, the police commissioner says there are no reports of any explosives on the George Washington Bridge or under the bridge. He says there is a report that he is trying to follow up on of a van having been stopped on the other side of the bridge in New Jersey, somewhere near the Meadowlands. He says he's still following that up. He says he cannot confirm whether or not that van had any explosives in it.
You, both Commissioner Carrick and Mayor Giuliani, fairly emotional earlier tonight when they were talking about some of the fire department chiefs and also the police officers who apparently have died in this. They're not releasing any numbers yet. Do we have any idea when that might happen?
We don't have any idea right now. The police commissioner and the mayor say that they hope to have more information tomorrow. They're still trying to sort through who's missing and where they might be. They say they have reports that there are people still alive under the rubble. They say that the fire department has been hit pretty hard with the personnel loss. A couple of the top members of the fire department having been missing and are presumed dead at this point. They say that the numbers of police officers involved that may be missing, injured, or dead will be a much smaller number.
All right, Cheryl, we're going to ask you to stand by at this undisclosed location, and when Commissioner Carrick does come out for his press conference, we'll come to you and we can take it then. Thank you. Cheryl Fiandaca reporting on security around New York City. We want to continue now with our coverage of the victims. Dozens have been treated at the Beekman Downtown Hospital in Lower Manhattan. Nina Pineda has been there all day. She joins us now with late details. Nina?
And Bill, we are outside Beekman Downtown Hospital, and the rescue operation has been continuing here. We were just over at the World Trade Concourse Mall, and you can imagine as you get close to the epicenter of where this happened, the devastation is just completely overwhelming. We were seeing over there rescue vehicles completely crushed, covered in debris. The National Guard is there to secure the area. Bulldozers and backhoes are there trying to clear some of that rubble away, looking for the survivors. Some of those survivors have been transported to the nearest hospitals for help. Nightfall on this day of terror brought with it the grave reports from the rescue operation at what is left of the World Trade Center. As the casualties continue to arrive, those helping were...
Okay, we're breaking in to go to Mayor Giuliani. Let's listen in.
They're in. But we are hopeful that we'll be able to rescue some more people. I have no idea how many others, but at least there's some hope that we'll be able to get some people out. We have been able to get 2 people out who have been identified as Port Authority police officers. I don't have their identities and I don't have their condition. That's the good news, and all night we'll keep trying to extricate people through tomorrow. And there are over 1,000 well over 1,000 rescue workers and emergency workers down there now. Could be 2,000. And the New York Police Department and the Fire Department, emergency services, the assistance that we've gotten from the National Guard, and if you go down there, you'll see fire departments from East Meadow and Belmore and northern New Jersey, and we really appreciate their efforts. It will be of great assistance all during the night. If you have questions that we can answer or try to answer, the number is 1-212-560-2730. That's 1-212-560-2730. I know that there's great concern over what the numbers of people lost are. We don't know the answer to that. The dimension will be very large. In terms of the people we're looking for, it's a couple of hundred firefighters and police officers, which is a staggering number. As far as the number of people in the building, that'll be in the thousands. But there's no way of knowing at this point, and we're going to keep praying and hoping that we save as many people as possible.
Mr. Mayor, there are reports that there are a group of survivors in the basement of the World Trade Center, that they have cell phones. They've been calling their relatives in Seattle to tell them precisely where they are, and that there's a group of NYPD police who are with them and alive and well. Do you know about this?
I know that rescue effort's been going on for a couple of hours, yes.
Mayor, do you know anything about the report about the possible explosives that were found in New Jersey?
Yeah, I think the police commissioner was able to get information about that.
I just got a confirmation from the chief of detectives. He's reached out to the FBI. They have confirmed that someone has been stopped in New Jersey, 3 men in a van. However, there was no explosives in the van. All right, they're being held for questioning.
Where in New Jersey, sir? Do you know?
I can't say yet.
Okay.
Why were they stopped, and why do you think they're connected with this?
We can't tell at this point. It's between the FBI and the Port Authority. We just got the confirmation by phone after I left the last briefing.
Were they on the George Washington Bridge as they were heading to New Jersey?
No, they weren't.
There were rumors that there were explosives. Well, where did those rumors come from, or why did that begin to circulate?
I can't tell
Were
you.
they in the Meadowlands, Police Commissioner?
Excuse me?
Were they in the Meadowlands?
It's my understanding, but we haven't confirmed that.
Do we know why they were stopped, sir?
Not yet.
Commissioner, can you tell us anything about the rescue of the 2 Port Authority officers, or the ongoing effort with the people in the basement, where the Port Authority officers were pulled out of, or the details?
We can't say yet. It was Trinity and Church where the officers were that were just pulled out. The other people that are still in the building, we can't tell exactly where they are.
We all know that the Port Authority is housed in the World Trade Center. Any idea of the status of their operations?
They've lost a lot of people, and we don't know the full dimension of that either. But the Port Authority have a lot of people that are missing, and we were fortunate to find 2 of the police officers. We'll keep searching for the others, but they have sustained a lot of losses.
The group of people with the cell phones that Marcia referred to, do you have any idea how big a group that size is in that particular location?
I don't think we know the exact numbers. We know it's more than 2 people. It's two people communicated, and they say there were more people there.
And do you
People
know
who are
what
roaming around the city trying to find information about those who are missing, what are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? And who's collecting that information?
The phone number that they should call is 212-560-2730. And then, as we have information about people either who have been recovered or are dead, we'll let them know that.
Is our morgue able to handle this?
We had a meeting with the medical examiner earlier. Went over it with him. He believes that he's able to handle it. He'll start handling it at 30th Street, which is the morgue for Manhattan. He'll then be able to move up to the Bronx, where he also has facilities, and then we have the possibility of using the pier on the west side, which is set aside in case the numbers get too difficult to handle. But he thinks he can handle at least a good deal of it tomorrow and the next day, right in Manhattan.
Commissioner Bonnet, can you talk about the loss of the fire department?
We've got over 300 people that are missing that we can't account for. We believe that many of them are gone. We don't we'll keep looking. We have hundreds of people over there now trying to find as many possible locations that they might be in some way in a void or whatever, and you know, still be able to breathe and still alive. But we believe that most of these people, I think, are going to be unable to pull out. So we'll just keep working on it. I have a number I'd like to give. We haven't been able to make any contact with the families because we're still unsure of the situation. So the number for the families who haven't spoken to their loved one in the course of this whole horrible day, if they call this number, we'll at least tell them that that this is a person that's missing, or that we have had some contact with this person. The number would be 718-999-2541 is a number that we'll be using at Fire Department headquarters.
What about
It's just for firefighters.
What about Chief Dan?
Just for firefighters, firefighters and fire officers, EMS personnel. I would we'll man those numbers. That number will roll over to 10 lines, and we'll be able to just try to give them some information. We don't have a lot, so that's why we haven't been calling them like we would normally do.
What about the top members of your staff who may have been lost?
I'm sorry, Deb.
What about the top members of your staff who may be lost?
We've notified their families already. Spoke to them earlier.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about it? I don't know what to say. We lost people that have given over 40 years. Commissioner Feehan has had every job in the department. Probably the most valuable person in the department. When I got this job, Mayor and Commissioner Safer said, make sure you keep Bill Feehan. Haven't regretted that one day. He's given a whole life to this department. Chief Gansey, the same thing. Chief of Department, 33 years, 34 years. Ray Downey, we just honored him with a dinner. Almost 40 years of service. World renowned for situations like this. Telling me how dangerous it was when we first got there. All the possibilities, everything that he was trying to do to, you know, get the people out. Father Judge, I don't know if you know Father Judge, one of the nicest men you could possibly find in the whole world. We haven't found other people yet either. I don't even want to mention their names. Some of the best people in this department. I can't find anybody from 5 rescues and 7 squads, and it's just it's a devastating thing. I don't know. Well, the fire department will recover, but I don't know how.
Commissioner Carrick, in the police department, do you have any idea how many people you're looking for at this time right now?
The number we're looking for is in excess of about 32, 33 people. That's what we know as of right now. And for the members, for the family members of the police department, if they have questions or they need to contact us regarding their family members, they can call 718-677-8238. It's the Special Operations Division, and we'll be able to help them as much as possible.
How close are rescue teams able to get to the scene, assuming there are people who are there?
The rescue teams are able to get very close now. It was very difficult during the day, but in most places they now can operate. There's still a few dangerous areas, but they're able to operate. They're able to operate down there now.
And are there pockets where people maybe?
Yes, we're very hopeful that there are pockets where there are people, not only the ones that we know about, but hopefully others. A group of firefighters were at St. Vincent's Hospital that were in a void for 4 or 5 hours, and we're hopeful that there are other situations like that. And that's why our rescue workers are working so furiously.
How big a group was that, Mayor?
That was a company. It was a group.
Company survived?
No, it was about 7.
Yeah, it's 5 guys and an officer.
5 guys
6.
survived.
Six men.
This was earlier today. They were in I believe 1 World Trade Center, and the firefighter described to me that they were there for about 4 or 5 hours, and when they walked out, they were shocked to see that the building had come down, because they knew there had been damage, but they had been in a void, so they had been protected.
What unit are we talking about, Bill?
It was
I'm not sure.
Forget.
We'll
I
find
don't
out
wanna
for you.
I think I remember, but I don't know.
Can you just tell us again about the two Port Authority police officers, how they were found, their condition?
No, the only thing we know is that they were found a while ago, that they're alive, and we'll get you more information about their condition.
And since we're talking about the Port Authority, I guess it's a reasonable assumption there's a large number of Port Authority police officers missing as well?
I'm sure there are. We don't have those exact numbers, as well as Port Authority personnel, people who work for the Port Authority.
Wasn't their office in?
Yeah, their office was there, and so we don't know how many people were actually at work. The first attack was at about 8:50, and then there was time to evacuate a lot of the building. So we're not sure at this point how much of the two buildings were evacuated in that period of time between the first attack by the airplane until the first building came down. We're hopeful, because we saw a lot of people leaving. We all did at the time we were down there. We're hopeful that a lot of people got out of the building, but we don't know the numbers yet.
Maybe Commissioner Carrick could tell us a little bit about the high-ranking members of the department. I understand one was missing for a while, and you were able to find him. And I believe the police surgeon was medevaced out to New Jersey. Did I get that right? No?
No, not to my knowledge. Police surgeons accounted for the ranks that we're looking at and looking for are at the ranks of police officer and detectives, and perhaps a few sergeants.
Last question, Deborah Farrell. Last one, Deborah Farrell.
Is there a coordinated effort right now to find out who exactly may have not been in the building when this happened, or people just calling various companies? How will we find out who was there and who was not there when this happened?
We're trying very hard by communicating with the Port Authority and some of the major tenants. We're trying to recreate how many people are there, but actually the major effort is really focused on trying to rescue people. The people who are out, I'm sure, have largely communicated with their families and are doing that. I saw many people doing that on the telephone as we were leaving. So really the focus of our efforts is to try to get as many people out as possible, with the hope that there are still people that are alive, like the ones that we know about.
Mayor, you said earlier that there were several other buildings downtown that may be structurally unsafe that you were still not sure about and that in fact may collapse. Has anything changed from earlier today?
No, I think no, I don't think so. Not from the last time we had a briefing, and we were down there. And
5 World Trade Center, I heard, was in some kind of trouble. What's the status of 5 World Trade?
I don't know.
Still, they're going to wait for daylight engineers to take a look at all these buildings.
I'm sorry.
We're waiting. We're going to wait till the daylight tomorrow. We'll have building and structural engineers check all these buildings that we're concerned about to make sure they're safe for rescue workers and to see what we can do to salvage these buildings.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you can ask your last question. Go ahead. Go ahead. He's been trying. He's been trying for a while.
In terms of how long does the department expect the people to be able to survive underneath the rubble like that? I mean, is there some sort of...
There's no... They could survive for some time. There's no way to know exactly how long, but it really it depends. And I think one of the things that comes out of today is it depends on... I guess it depends on the will of God, or as to where you are, where you're standing, as this firefighter pointed out to us earlier.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify something Commissioner Carrick said, you were about 10 minutes past from when you were standing with several of the high-ranking officers who you lost, and then you went to Barclay Street. Have you thought about that 10-minute gap, how you were 10 minutes from being in a horrible situation?
I haven't had a chance to think about it yet.
But is that sort of accurate, that you would have been with them, you were with them 10 minutes earlier before the building collapsed?
Well, some of the people that we lost, we saw, like Father Judge and Chief Gansey, Bill Feehan. We saw them about 10 minutes before we went over to 75 Barclay Street. And as I talked to their families, and I explained to them that they were working very hard, and they were working at what they love to do, and I'm sure their efforts will end up having saved other lives, and their families can be very proud of them.
We have, without any doubt, the best police department, the best fire department, the best police officers, the best fire officers, the best emergency workers of any place in the whole world. And although today's tragedy is going to be enormous, and there's no way to minimize it, if it weren't for them, this tragedy would be far worse. I mean, they executed brilliantly today. And I, having watched it, and having been a recipient of their services because we had to get ourselves out, I can tell you that whatever the number of casualties, without our police department, our fire department, our EMS, and the kinds of people that we have, many of whom lost their lives, there would be double or triple the number of casualties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have been listening to an emotional news conference with Mayor Giuliani and commissioners, the police commissioner Bernard Kerik, the fire commissioner Thomas Von Essen. Thomas Von Essen detailing the tremendous loss to his department. More than 300 firefighters missing and presumed dead. 32 police officers also missing. Horrible, terrible numbers.
Many of those officers and firefighters going up on that first tower to rescue and evacuate people inside that building, and themselves losing their lives, perhaps, certainly missing tonight. And the fear is that they've lost their lives. The headlines here: there are 2 people, Mayor Giuliani says, who have been rescued tonight. 2 Port Authority police officers rescued in the vicinity of Trinity and Church downtown. The mayor says that 1,000 to 2,000 rescue workers still working and will work throughout the night. As you said, a distraught Thomas Von Essen saying that 300 firefighters now missing. And we should have one other note, Diana. The word, the rumor, the story that had circulated about a potential bomb being found in a truck that was stopped that had left the George Washington Bridge. Apparently the Port Authority did stop a suspicious-looking van. They found no bomb. There is no truth to that report. So
okay.
That is good.
We want to go back to Nina Pineda, who is out at Beekman in Lower Manhattan. Let's go back to Nina. Nina?
Diana and Bill, you heard one of the reporters there in the mayor's press conference asking how close the rescue personnel could get to the World Trade Center. Well, we just came back from the World Trade Center Concourse Mall. The answer is rescue personnel are actually inside the craters that were both of the Twin Towers. They've been assisted by some iron workers who are actually standing on some beams. Bulldozers and backhoes are moving some of that equipment. The National Guard is standing there. But what they're doing is they're crawling through the craters and crevices of what's left. Up until an hour ago, they were telling us that they were still hearing people crying for help. You hear these sirens behind me. That's a good noise. You'd never think you would welcome that. That means they are transporting now victims back from what was a silent scene, because hopefully they've been able to move some of those people, have some survivors in their ambulances. We hear some of them coming now, and it was silent, Bill and Diana, for a long time tonight. But now that the ambulances are coming back from the World Trade Center where we just returned from, that means hopefully who's inside? Some survivors, and many of them were brought here to Beekman Downtown Hospital earlier tonight. Nightfall on this day of terror brought with it the grave reports from the rescue operation at what is left of the World Trade Center. As the casualties continue to arrive, those helping were among the critically injured. Those who were looking for survivors trapped 13 hours after the buildings crashed down, who became trapped themselves after building number 7 at the World Trade Center, badly damaged by fire, collapsed.
Well, we could just look around and barely see a little bit of light. We saw cops on the floor, firefighters on the floor, people reaching out and begging and saying, please don't leave me here, don't leave me here. I took maybe one guy and put him on the hood of his car that were dead, but most of them were jumping from the building. Whoever these poor souls are, they didn't make it out.
Much needed supplies are pouring in as heavy equipment mobilizes to carry the rubble away. Doctors at Beekman Downtown already tending to almost 400 survivors and awaiting many more.
They told us they'd be bringing injured over in a while, but we haven't seen anybody for the last hour or so. So I don't know whether or not it's just because it's too difficult to still get into that area or not.
As rescuers return from crawling around in what they say is a pitch black crater, they say the cries for help are becoming more sparse. This ironworker searching for his sister-in-law presumes she is among the dozens, if not hundreds, that are now dead.
It's the biggest crawl space we got into, me and my fellow iron worker, what it was close to 30 by 25 foot gap with 15-foot drop downs. We had no rope to propel down. basically, we're just, you know, it's a horrible thing. It's a one big crater in the middle of the building.
You spotted any survivors?
No survivors. No survivors whatsoever. No survivors.
Again, within the last half an hour, some of the rescue personnel that were there on the scene reported telling us that they are hearing some people crying from the rubble. They were just in the last hour or two able to get some of those bulldozers and some backhoes into the area. The whole area is unstable and unsafe. They've had to really pick their way through what's left of both of the Twin Towers because it's strewn all through the World Concourse Mall and through the park neighboring near that. The numbers here at Beekman Downtown Hospital, they don't have exact numbers. They're telling us they've treated about 300 to 400 people for casualties. 3 people did arrive who had already expired, fatally injured from what happened this afternoon, or this morning rather. And also, they're treating several firefighters. As night fell and as that other tower came down, World Trade Building number 7, they had another wave, and what we're seeing right now is some more activity, which hopefully means there's some survivors on the way to the hospital. If anyone needs to reach someone at Beekman Downtown Hospital, they did release this number, 312-5106, 312-5106. We are seeing several ambulances heading from the World Trade Center back over to Beekman Downtown. Hopefully they're carrying some survivors in those ambulances. We're live in the Financial District. I'm Nina Pineda, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Well, we are hoping here too, Nina. Thank you. Over the next few days, we are going to hear many stories of desperate escapes and close calls. Our own Joe Torres, along with Eyewitness News photographer Glenn Mayros, barely escaped today's terror attack on the trade towers, and they made a frantic run for their lives. Joe is live in Lower Manhattan with his story. Joe?
Yes, Diana. Eyewitness News photographer Glenn Mayros, who I had the privilege of working with today. We've now had several hours to sort of reflect, to look back, to look at the personal experience that we lived through today. And perhaps the most gut-wrenching, emotional time for us was when, after what seemed like hours on a cell phone, we finally got through to our wives and our loved ones and updated them. They were in the dark, like many of our colleagues back in the newsroom for a good portion of the day, did not know our whereabouts, did not know our condition. All this today, as we tried to tell a story, we almost became part of it. About 10 o'clock this morning, photographer Glenn Mayros and I stood at 7 World Trade Center, the Twin Towers still piercing the clear blue sky. Moments later, a thunderous rumble.
Underground! I'm with you! Let's go! Underground! I'm with you!
We started running north on Church Street alongside police officers, FBI agents, emergency workers. We thought the ground below was about to explode. It seems now the sound we heard were the floors of the South Tower collapsing as the skyscraper tumbled to the ground. The expanding cloud of smoke and debris chasing us up the street. I screamed at Glenn, weighed down with his camera, batteries, and tapes, to keep moving.
Come on, Glenn, you can do it, man!
5-6 blocks later, we stopped, our hearts racing, people crying, others gasping for air. As we caught our breath, Kevin McNeil explained to us how he got off the 85th floor.
Felt like a bomb went off. Smoke, everything was flying. We just had a hard time finding a way out. We found it, down we came.
Still on Church Street, thinking we were safe, we did an interview with a Port Authority engineer who worked on the 72nd floor of number 1 World Trade Center. We never finished the interview.
They're very strong buildings, as you remember from the blast the last time. So,
but what does it take as an engineer to do the job? Oh no!
Let's get out of here.
The frantic dash up Church Street resumed after the North Tower came down. When the horror would end, we had no idea. And the horror did not end. Of course, 7 World Trade Center, the building we were leaning on earlier in the day, tonight no longer standing. For those watching, wondering, why we do what we do. We get close to the scene. We try to document as best we can the events as they occur. Tonight, I think both Glenn and I can agree we got a little too close. Live outside the Trauma Center here at St. Vincent Center in Greenwich Village, I'm Joe Torres, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
Joe, thank you. We're so glad you both are okay. We had a number of our reporters who were among the first on the scene this morning, among them Jim Hoffer, who also witnessed the terror when the World Trade Center towers collapsed. Here is his chilling account.
All night long, emergency crews headed down the West Side Highway for ground zero of the terrorist attack. But heading away from the scene in their dust-covered car were two brothers who narrowly escaped death. They were working outside right next to the North Tower when the first plane struck.
That's not real. It was a scene out of a movie. The people running from downtown, running up the streets, no shoes on their feet. Some people had their shirts were ripped off.
The Warren brothers, like thousands of other New Yorkers, had to run a race for their lives against a deadly rolling cloud of dust and debris created by the inconceivable collapse of the Twin Towers.
As you can see behind me, the second and last tower of the World Trade Tower has just collapsed. It is about 10:30 Eastern Time, and the tower has collapsed. We did not hear an explosion. There was no sign telling us previous any kind of warning that the building was going to collapse. The warning for us were people just running in our direction, and that's when we started to get out of the way. It is a scene out of Dante's hell, horrific. No World Trade Tower is standing. Time, 10:30, Lower Manhattan.
There was smoke everywhere and people are jumping out the windows. Over there, they're jumping out the windows, I guess because they're trying to save themselves. I don't know.
After the terrorist strike, U.S. fighter jets took to the air, too late to make any difference. New York City had become a no-fly zone, just like in a war. And somewhere tonight, terrorists are celebrating the apocalyptic destruction that has killed so many and forever changed America and its largest city.
It's just an act of cowardness. Anybody who does something like that, these people here are just trying to make a living, going to work. They're not combatants. They don't hold. We're just people trying to make a living, and these cowards attack us this way.
In Lower Manhattan, Jim Hoffer, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.